All right, I'm back, and this time, finally, I am at least planning to finish this one up, to finally add every last bit and bob that I'm missing, and hopefully be completely done with it today. I'm aware that that's maybe a bit of an overestimation. Maybe I need a little bit more, but I guess so far the plan is I've started a little bit more early than normal, which should be a normal time because I usually start slightly after midnight. So yeah, and I'm hoping to get this done today. There are a few areas that I guess remembered that I still need to fix. Or rather, I remembered that I still needed to fix a few areas. I don't remember which areas though. The background I definitely want to change. I think this kind of flowy, wavy, shadowy background doesn't look all that nice. But I think I'm gonna just continue where I left off last time, continue with the shadowing. Obviously, shadowing, there are a bunch of different ways that you could do it, and I think a lot of them are really cool. Like, I quite like this kind of shadowing where you just draw, I don't want to say just draw lines, that sounds a bit silly, but where you should probably remove it like this, since I drew over what I previously had here. Yeah, where you basically insinuate or just do a rough. In German it's schraffieren. That's a, I guess, special art term that I don't know the English version of. So yeah, I'm hoping to get this mostly done today. I'm realizing now that I look at it that obviously it is quite a lot, especially if I want to do very like meticulous, very small shadowing in these areas, very, I guess, local shadowing. Like all of these hairs, if I want to do a drop shadow for all of them, that's gonna be quite a long time. But I'm gonna see how far I get. I'm gonna see if I can at least get this close to being finished. I might then clean it up a bit in post, but that's, I guess, for us to decide later. For now, I'm just continuing where I left off. I tried to look a little bit at like different techniques on how to do these kind of drop shadows. I realized that drop shadow, I think, is usually used for text, like for text in Word or something like that. I don't actually know if this is considered the same term. I'm just going to keep using it though. Oh. And I'm hoping it works out well. I'm hoping I'm happy with the final result. I'm not going to be too beat up if I'm not. This is not going to be the final thing I ever draw. So I'm not going to worry too much about it. Although I do want to use it for the stream, for basically as a pause screen and as an intermediate thing. So I'm gonna... Is this what the shadow of the tentacle would be like? I think the tentacle shadow would probably come more out of here. Something like this. And then I need to figure out how to continue here. I'm gonna have to probably do it in quite a lot of layers, because I don't want to encroach too much into other areas' territories. Yeah, I have to think about it a little bit more. I think this side of the face can probably be quite dark, because when I looked at it earlier, I realized that I'm doing a very light shadow, but I guess I can do a pretty harsh shadow as well. That way I have to worry a lot less about keeping specific highlights here. I think for the eye, something like this is probably gonna work fine. I might have to move the shadow layer quite a lot higher. Is it gonna be like that? No, I think the eyebrow should probably be at least somewhat... Should it be somewhat highlighted? I have to actually kind of think about what, I guess what shadows look like. I think if I am gonna be this, I guess, harsh with the half of the face in shadow, I probably want the shadow on this side of the face also be a lot more dominant, or at least prominent. Like something like this, where it starts off a lot earlier. There's so many different, like, I've been thinking about not only what to do next, but also what I kind of want to try to learn. And a big part of it is both colors and shadowing. I'm quite interested to see if I can figure out how to do... does this work? Not really. It still needs a lot more shadow. I think the bottom part of the nose probably has quite a lot of shadow, so it would probably be more like this. Depending on what the shape of the nose is, I guess. And then make the, I guess, highlight on the cheek a lot smaller. So maybe it's something like this. I'm gonna look at it in the big picture once I'm then slowly, I guess, trimming this down. And I'm gonna decide then if I actually like this or not. Not like this. Let's see. It maybe looks a little bit odd. I'm not quite sure what the shape of the... Like, I'm defining the shape of the nose by adding it, adding a shadow to it, which is a little bit... feels a little bit weird. Maybe kind of like this. Ah, this goes a little bit too far. I think the center should definitely be free. A little bit like this. Ah! Yeah, I'm gonna have to try to figure this out eventually. I can also just leave it for a bit and basically decide that I will figure it out later. Maybe something like this could work. Roughly like this. Eh. Yeah, I think the more I'm gonna look at it, the more I'm gonna be questioning what I'm doing. I'm just gonna not focus all too much on then... I mean, as much as I can. I'm gonna not focus all too much on redoing parts. I'm gonna have to do it a little bit because I just can't stop myself. But I think it's fine if I guess, approximate it. I can always change it later if I decide that I don't like the way it currently looks. I think for the ear, I think I had issues with that last time as well, where I'm not really sure what an inner ear, like what the shadow in an inner ear looks like. Maybe kind of like this. I'm gonna have to erase wherever I crossed over. I also have a few more ideas for the background. Basically go with more, like with a really massive brush size and just do broad strokes of light and shadow. I think that could look alright. Nope. Maybe like this. That's probably fine. Like if I had multiple layered shadows, which, oh god, I'm not going to start with that. But then I could obviously go a bit deeper into like the areas, for example, right here, where it should go really dark, because you're having a lot of a, I guess, more harsh shadow than you have in the outside areas. I would try to like multi-layer multiple shadows, but I think that's also a bit too much. I think for this project, my original goal at least was to get it done in a reasonable time frame, and also, which I absolutely didn't do, but at least be happy with what I'm doing and not erase or question too much. Already, I think even that part I kind of failed, because I'm erasing quite a lot of areas. But I think it's at least a lot better than it used to be. So I'm gonna try to be happy with what I have. How? Kind of like this. But yeah, for the next parts, there are some things I want to play on stream. There are some, I guess, other things that I want to draw. I want to basically try to do something quite small, quite similar to bottom right here. Like something that isn't a lot of effort and a lot of space. Or that at least looks like it isn't a lot of effort, but a lot of space. But still, like that kind of forces me to keep things simple and not overthink each line. Although it might be the other way around, where because it is quite small, I will then, I guess, especially try to overthink stuff. Okay, that's... I think that's probably fine for an inner ear. I say, assuming I know what an inner ear shadow looks like. Like something like this for the downstairs area. I also don't think it needs to be perfect. I keep telling myself, and then I start erasing more and more. Maybe like this. I have to kind of think about the, I guess, plasticity of this, of the green areas. Like, if they are like almost water drops, or I guess a gooey texture. Obviously a gooey texture would then also change the shadow and make the shadow kind of see-through, but I'm not going to bother with all of that. I just have to keep telling myself that I want to keep this simple, and that way hopefully I can. Yes, where would the shadow of this tentacle go? Maybe somewhere like this? I think that's probably fine. Although no, if the light is coming from this side, oh, I guess my camera is mirrored, so from this side of the face, then ooh, no, then the shadow would be very different. Wouldn't it then go kind of like here and go into this direction? I'll draw this for a second and then I'll try to figure out if that's correct. Ooh, no, I think it's... Oh, this is very difficult. I might have to just think about that exact shadow for a while. Let's see. You have a tentacle here. The previous one is just falling to the side. This one, I guess it would also be falling, but somewhat less extreme. So it would be something like this. So slightly shadowy, but then kind of... I guess the shape, I should get the shape correct. But I think it should be maybe somewhat like this. Just a lot smaller, a lot more, I guess, staunch. Yeah, that's probably fine. That's probably correct-ish. Good enough. Good enough should be my motto for most of this, since otherwise it will this will be far from the last session and I will take months or years to finish this, and I don't want that. Like this entire, I don't want to call it experiment, but this entire idea has been for me to think less about what I'm drawing and just do it. And I think if I take a long time deliberating every step and then redoing every step, which I've already done quite a lot, but I guess less than I assumed to, then that will end up being quite uninteresting and unhealthy for my, I guess, drawing attitude. I was weirdly today reminded of a, like, completely unrelated, but when I went to university at some point I did a university course that was like on, I wanted to say Infowar. Infowar is something very different, obviously, but it was about like information warfare and how information can be used to influence. And from that alone, I was like, oh, this is quite interesting. This could be, like, with enough deliberation and a careful approach, this could be really nice. It could be like teaching people how to do critical thinking and how to, I guess, have a more introspective approach on the media they consume. And so I joined the course, and it ended up being quite a small course. It was like, I think 6 people in total. So already a lot less than I expected, and maybe should have been a warning in itself. And then the professor came in, and I think she was a decent professor at some point. Like she wasn't inherently, maybe I don't want to say too curious, but maybe she allowed herself to question things a little bit too much, and so a lot of it was about conspiracy theories and how conspiracy theories evolve and how they start off. And so at the start I was like, okay, this could still be interesting. It's not quite what I thought it would be, and then it slowly morphed into the professor very adamantly defending a lot of different conspiracy theories, not with phrases of like, oh, this is definitely true and you have to believe that they're poisoning the jet fuel. No, that part, okay. I'm gonna get to that part, but they're poisoning the chemtrail thing. But she was very clearly someone who put a lot of weight in, I guess, keeping an open mind. And in her case, that meant keeping an open mind, especially for things that... Which direction does this go? Is it higher or lower? I think here I made it a above the previous area. So this should be dropping a shadow somewhat here. A very small shadow. So yeah, she was keeping a very open mind and was very much like, okay, we can't just dismiss something because we think it's like, I believe this is wrong, therefore I don't believe it. But in that, obviously, she allowed herself to consider things that are maybe too far out of the norm. Like, her approach was, oh, I'm going to consider things equally, even though like they might come from a different source that I'm used to. And in theory, that is fine. But then, let's say, how do I best phrase this? Let's say someone tells a lie, or someone has an assumption, and they communicate that assumption, and then other people test it, and then, like, let's say 500 other or 100 other people test it, and those 100 other people are like, okay, we also have an assumption. All of us have tested it. One of us says it is this result. The other 100 say it is the other result. Her approach was basically, oh, like, it would be wrong to immediately disconsider something or not consider something just because there are not that many people supporting it. So we have to give it, I guess, an equal amount of consideration. And I guess the scary part was that, obviously, in theory, that sounds really nice. Yeah, of course, even if something isn't a majority opinion, you should at least still give it a voice. But then if you give it equal consideration to the opinion, or let's say scientific result of many other people that come to an opposite conclusion, if you're weighing both of them equally, you're obviously going down a path that is, we spend, I guess, too much consideration on something that might not be worth as much consideration. It's like a chess engine. If a chess engine would consider every possible move equally, it would spend quite a lot of time and energy on moves that are idiotic. So sometimes it will go down a line, realize this line is not gonna work, and then not consider that line anymore. Obviously, if it would consider everything equally, it would start getting, I guess, bogged down in minor considerations. And with that professor, it was very similar, that she started off saying, oh, we should consider things equally. Like, a big thing with her was alternative media, like media outlets that are not mainstream. And her opinion wasn't that, oh, you shouldn't trust mainstream media. It was quite contrary. It was that she said, oh, you should consider alternative media and give it like an equal weight. And I very vehemently disagreed with her, because I was of the opinion that you shouldn't give it equal weight. It's clearly something that is like that. You shouldn't not consider something just because only few people are saying it, or few people are supporting it, but you should not give it equal consideration to something that I guess is supported by the majority. And I guess in edge cases, that will lead to you sometimes not considering something that turns out to be true. But in other cases, that will lead you to, I guess, over-consider things that are wrong. And it will kind of bog you down with spending too much energy on something that you shouldn't spend that much energy on. Anyway, awful the course ended up being extremely interesting for me, but also quite annoying, because it then ended up me arguing against 3 or 4 other people. One of them completely, like one of them left before the second session started. They were like, okay, I clearly signed up for the wrong thing here. This is absolutely inane bullshit, and I'm just gonna drop this course. But the others were like, oh yeah, let's talk about different 9/11 conspiracy theories, and let's talk about the Kennedy assassination, and insert any amount of other theories here. And it was quite annoying, because obviously me saying, oh yeah, maybe it wasn't an inside job, maybe in certain circumstances jet fuel can in fact melt steel beams, and then being belittled for it and being told like, oh yeah, the government said so, right? Oh, you surely do believe everything the government says. That was a little bit annoying, because I consider myself quite, I guess I don't easily believe anything, but at the same time, I'm not happy to just jump on a conspiracy theory bandwagon just because someone tells me that I would give it equal consideration. And as I guess I spent in that course, I spent a lot of energy trying to convince them that they were wrong, and maybe that is just wasted energy. Maybe I shouldn't have tried so much. I mean, she was at least probably at some point a good professor. So she, like, when grading, she wasn't like, oh, this one doesn't believe in my conspiracy theories, I'm gonna give them a bad grade. She very much was like, okay, they presented their argument. I disagree with their argument, but I'm still gonna give them X grade, like a normal, a fine grade. And I was okay with that, but I think most of that course could probably have used some oversight from the university. I think that's probably the problem if you have a professor who's in their job for quite a long time and then drastically changes course in the middle of it. At some point you have to maybe reevaluate how well suited they are to be a professor, or at least not let them teach whatever they want. But yeah, in this case, that definitely wasn't a consideration that the university was doing. And so I had to deal with arguing about the second tower theory in 9/11 or something like that. It was exhausting. But yeah, in the end, I'm also, like, obviously it lowered a little bit of my respect for the other people in that course, because I was like, okay, you are very happy, like an authority figure says, oh, you should do this, and you're like, oh yeah, we should definitely do this. So it did lower my respect for my classmates quite a bit. But I guess it was a very nice way to learn and train a little bit how to argue against things or argue for things, like different methods of argumentation. I hope I'm on the right layer here, because I'm gonna do an emergency layer in between, because here I want to go through things, and if I then want to erase something that is on a layer in front of it, I'm just gonna erase the shadow behind it as well. And like this doesn't happen. Okay, I think it's probably fine. I'm gonna, like, I realized that in other images I have now later found areas where I probably haven't used enough shadow arc. I think this part probably could just do with more shadow. Maybe just do it all in the shadow like this. And maybe this just doesn't need to be there. Okay, this works fine. Yeah, it was a little bit weird that the professor was like, oh hey, I actually, turns out I drank all the Kool-Aid. Like, I believe every single thing. I'm quite glad I only had one thing with her, and I wasn't even in her department, so it was kind of a not extracurricular activity, but something I did not necessarily because I needed to. So I could also be like, okay, I'm gonna argue against this professor, because even if she decides to give me a bad grade, I'm not reliant on this grade, which was quite a liberating feeling. And obviously it's also something that afterwards is quite nice. Oh, I need to now figure out, okay, if I want to shade these, I guess, round ropes here, I now need to figure out where I took that color from. And I think I can just, I have to go to the correct layer. Oh, this is the layer. Okay, we're starting with the purple one. I'm not quite switching topics immediately. I'm not quite sure about the having music in the background. I realized that it's probably a little bit boring if there's no music in the background. So I'm using, I guess, royalty-free Twitch background, or music that's intended as royalty-free Twitch background music. But at the same time, it's not necessarily music I actually listen to. I think to have it not overpower myself on stream, I have it white low in the background, so the only time I notice it is when it's getting a bit annoying. Yeah, if I should stop with too much background music, I can easily do that and just do talking instead. It's just peer pressure, me now having background music, because I feel like I need to add something other than just me talking. Alright, now that we have broached the Kennedy assassination and 9/11, it feels like every other topic will be a little bit of a letdown. I'm a bit stuck on that professor, or on that course in general. I remember that on the second day, or the very first day I think, was about different 9/11 theories and the jet fuel art, and I was so energetic, so I don't like to argue without having, I guess, actual support. Jesus Christ, where's this blue line? I keep no, this is not it. I keep turning on and off different layers. I can't find this blue layer. I might have fucked up and done it on 2 layers accidentally, and now I'm just never gonna find the right one because it's on too many. It must be somewhere. It can't be on line work. It's also, I think it is on 2 layers. Oh no, that is layer 23. I named that in the most annoying way possible. Yeah, so first day was about 9/11 and about different building theories, and she was like, well, have you ever heard about a skyscraper just burning down. And I was like, okay, that's probably a bit of a mean-spirited point. Like, obviously not meant to be mean-spirited by her, but that was the thing that convinced her. Oh no. I have to be careful about not drawing into the purple one, because the purple is on the same layer. Because to her it was like, okay, yeah, no, that is correct. I haven't heard of a skyscraper just burning down, but at the same time it was like, okay, if you think about it, not a lot of like, there haven't been a lot of extreme fires in skyscrapers. Obviously sometimes a fire breaks out and sometimes that fire is quite bad, but there haven't been a lot of I guess planes involved in those fires usually. And even if they do, usually the fire brigade has time to arrive and time to fight the fire, instead of just having to be like, okay, our main focus is just getting people out of there and not saving the building. So in that regard, it was like, yes, skyscrapers don't usually burn down like that. But that also wasn't a usual situation. And to apply that to that situation is a bit, maybe not mean-spirited, but it's, I guess, using a lot of argumentation that is very common for conspiracy theories. Alright, back to color. I'm kind of hesitant to talk about these topics in general, because I don't think I am informed enough to do an opinion on those. But yeah, basically after that day, I then went back home, spent hours looking up the final report, the final fire report, and poured over it and was like, okay, here are these, here's this information, here's the information on why it affected the building like it did. Like, all of that is documented. And then, oh, how did the fire jump over to a different building? Well, here's the information on that. Why does it, I mean, one of the things is, why does it look like things exploded in there? And it's like, okay, if you have a story collapsing onto another story, it's gonna put quite a lot of air out, and that's, if you like do it quickly, the air has to go somewhere, and if the air is then dirty by having collapsed building debris inside, it's gonna look a little bit like an explosion. So yeah, I then went back next day. I was like, okay, I've got this. Surely, surely I can now convince them. And I presented my argument, and she was like, oh yeah, that's interesting. I haven't read that report, which I was like, okay, you're saying quite a lot of inane bullshit to not have read that. But then she was like, oh yeah, interesting. Okay, next topic. Immediately go to the very next extremely conspiracy theorist thing. Like, I think that's when then she started with the second building. And I get it, if you teach something like that at university, you're probably already pretty deep in the source, and you're probably pretty much part of other conspiracy theory circles. And I assume she wasn't like, oh, I believe this one theory and nothing else, but then she was like, oh, let's consider this theory. And if I applied the same, I guess, maybe misguided logic I applied to the other thing, then oh, there's some interesting discussion worthy or think worthy things to be found here as well. And I think once you're deep enough in that, you either have to then be like, oh, if I like change my mind on this thing, I use that as a basis to like not only like free my mind to then consider these other theories, but I also have decided to teach that at university. So if I seriously consider that I might be wrong, I'm gonna have to seriously consider what the fuck I'm doing here. Like I would have to probably cancel or at least drastically change what I'm doing in this course. And I can understand that she was like, okay, I'm not gonna give that my full consideration because it would be too damaging to the kind of reality I've built up for myself. So yeah, fair enough. I wasn't impressed with that course. I probably should have talked to the university about it in general, but I didn't. So in the end, I just took my grade and left and was like, okay, this was a massive waste of time. Nobody gained anything from that, and I think some people might have started drinking the Kool-Aid maybe a little bit too much. So yeah, for the background I was thinking with basically very broad brush strokes, do something. I think I can't really find a good example here. Maybe the top right. Do something with like very, very broad strokes that looks like a roughly painted wall, and that way it should fit somewhat, and even if not, it's gonna be it's gonna mesh well with anything I have in the foreground. Hopefully. I'm gonna have to see about that. Alright, next big thing is shading these hair ropes, I guess. A slightly darker version of green. I'm gonna see if I can just grab the layer for the hair real quick, because I think if I do this, then nothing happens. Oh, I grabbed the layer for the halo by accident. Hair is this one. Alright, if I do this, then I don't have to worry too much about crossing over into other areas. I can just draw in it, and yeah, don't have to worry about drawing into areas that I don't want to draw into. I guess it makes it a little bit harder to see what I'm doing, so I might have to reconsider what I'm doing here. If it turns out that it's not really very interesting or fun to watch. Not that this is like the most fun and interesting to watch thing in general. Okay, like this. But yeah, I think in terms of university courses, that was probably my most out there course, and everything else was like, there wasn't anything I guess offensive. Obviously I had professors that were like, oh, my topic is the most important topic, and I will like fail everybody who doesn't approach this with the same amount of, I guess, respect that I'm approaching the topic with. Which is fine if you're teaching something like something very general that probably everybody in that course should learn. But if it's something fairly specific, like in biology, which is what I did, if you're then doing something like specific plant biology, probably like, yeah, like in general, it is something that biologists should know about, but you don't have to treat it like everybody who doesn't give 100% in your course will fail their biology degree, because in the end, there are a lot more directions you can take in biology than specifically, I don't know, identifying plants. And who boy can't identify plants anymore? I used to be okay at that. Like we used to do special field trips where we then would go around, and there was a final test where we had to identify at least, I think it was 100 plants in the wild. and I was fine. I did learn the 100 plants, and oh no, it wasn't the wild, it was from a PowerPoint presentation. So I identified those 100 plants and immediately forgot them. I was like, okay, the second I leave this classroom after the final, I do not know either the names, neither the names nor the looks of these plants anymore. And I mean, some of them were common ones, like okay, never mind. I can't do any examples because I do not know any of the names in English. But for some of them, they were extremely special or local variations of very specific other plants. And I was like, okay, unless you specifically are studying to do, I guess, plant biology, you're not going to use this too much. I guess the very first thing that most people say when I say, oh, I studied biology, I was like, oh, that's really cool. Like pointing at that tree, what kind of tree is that? And it's like, okay, it's a very leafy tree. And it has variegated leaves, and therefore it is a But yeah, I couldn't identify most things anymore from university. The same is unfortunately true for animals. I'm just really bad at anything that isn't statistics, I think. I guess for animals it's less about, can you name that this is a hedgehog? Yeah, okay, it is a hedgehog. It's more about like, what are the scientific names for the different parts of this animal? And even that I'm quite bad at, because I never ended up working with it, so I never ended up using it. And at this point it's been at least a couple of years. I guess I could possibly refresh that in time. But then where would I use it? Like, I would just train it to forget about it. And then if you're already at that point, then why bother? Oh yeah, but I've thought a bit about what kind of games or other content I can do on this. Obviously there was this Grand Life 2 that was quite interesting, but I think after a while it ended up being, it's the kind of game where you have to then just leave it running for a few in-game years for anything exciting to happen. And I think if you then, like, there didn't seem enough content to then be like, oh, let's go in depth about which kind of scooter, which color of scooter you're buying. So it was, I very much ran out of things to say. And obviously if you have an active chat going, then you can be like, oh, it doesn't matter that I don't know what to say, because I will just riff off of something that chat said. But usually I can't do that. Not for a lack of trying, more for a lack of chat. But then again, if I wasn't streaming this, I probably wouldn't draw as much. And I probably wouldn't spend as much time deliberating things and then maybe changing my approach and changing, I guess, what I draw and how I draw it. So I am quite happy that I am streaming this anyway, just so that I can, I guess, talk to myself, second opinion myself about like decisions while drawing. And it's also been nice to then dig up a few older drawings that I did to just do some comparisons. I have been looking at different techniques. Oh, sorry. I've been looking at different techniques with shadowing, I was like, okay, I'm familiar with this one technique and everything else seems difficult to apply for something that I'm in the middle of. Oh shit. Oh, hi Val. Welcome back. You missed 2 streams, but you made it back. I hope your homework went well and everything's done. Yeah, I'm a lot earlier today, which is very nice for me because usually I start after midnight for me, and that is not a good idea, especially not on work days. Oh no, I'm distracted. I can't draw anymore. So yeah, to zoom out a little bit, I guess I can unhighlight the hair. I've been trying to figure out shadowing a little bit. I'm not sure I am currently doing it correctly, but at least I'm just gonna go forward with it for this project, and then next time I might try a different approach. I think my priority right now is to just finish what's, I guess, on the plate right now. And then I can think about how to improve it for the next project. You're trying not to procrastinate with homework or with something else entirely. I'm doing my very best to procrastinate in every waking minute. Although I do have a presentation tomorrow that is a little bit daunting. And I might have to, I guess I can't do too late today because the presentation isn't fully finished. But then again, it's also not the final presentation. It's like a talk with a client about a presentation that then will only end up happening in 2 weeks' time. I guess I'm the expert on that topic anyway, so it's just me explaining to them what I did, and they have to believe me in that because they can't do it themselves. Although I spent the last week trying to explain very in-depth statistics to people who don't need to know that kind of statistics, but who are very adamant about that they really needed to fully understand what I am doing. And it's like, okay, maybe that's not entirely necessary. Maybe you hired me because you know that I can do it, and maybe I don't need to explain in-depth regression statistics to you. Yeah, I studied biology at university, but I very much focused on statistics. Like my master's I did in like almost behavioral psychology, like a mix between that and biology. And then in my job I ended up doing like very much hard committing into the statistics part of biology and ditching very much the biology part of biology. So I ended up being mostly data analysis. Oh, this looks good. Mostly data analysis with a sprinkle of, I guess, project leading and project management. Which does sound quite boring, and in reality it is slightly less boring. But still, I guess it has some very nice aspects in that if I can explain complicated stuff to people that are really interested in it, that is so much fun. Because I can get very excited about explaining boring statistical models to people. But yeah, in reality, most of the time it is people who are like, oh yeah, like, so you took the average here, and I'm like, well, not quite, but it's good enough if you don't fully understand it. And then they're like, okay, so if I take the average here, I'm getting quite a different result. And it's like, okay, yep, yeah. If you do that if you just take an average of something that I spent a few hours modeling, then yeah, that's gonna be a different result. Oh boy. I either have to give you an in-depth statistic class now, or just have to tell you I'm sorry you won't understand what I did here. Yeah, I did, like for my master's project, that was really interesting. I did emotional, or like emotion coding. So basically in the video, or like if you take a video of someone and you show them something, you can, instead of having to say, oh, that person looks happy or sad, roughly, you can look at different areas of their face and like, oh, what angle is their mouth at, and what angle are their eyes at, and the eyebrows, are they raised, lowered, are their eyes open, closed, or kind of narrowed? And there are like around 50 different points in the face, and if you take all of them, you can kind of, instead of just guessing, you can say, oh, this person is feeling anger, and then you can basically code it as anger, and then you can even give it to an automatic reader, and that automatic reader will apply the same methodology and say, oh, this person looks angry. And if you are trying to investigate different emotions through that, you can basically take a lot of videos of people, show them something that's supposed to make them be angry or disgusted or happy, and then see how they react and maybe what the differences are. Maybe people from a different socioeconomic background, are they reacting differently or something like that? Which is, it's similar to the thing that phones are doing. Yeah, that's very true. It's I guess the technology isn't super advanced, and the reason that or the way they train machines is basically they code a bunch of faces and like say, oh, this person looks happy, this person looks sad, and then it's similar to training AI, because it's very similar to AI in general. You give that to a machine and basically say, okay, try to code things, and the result that you should get at the end should be that this person is happy. And then once you've trained that machine enough, you can then apply that to other areas, and you will have I guess, a machine that can somewhat predict what a person is feeling. The problem is that all of those training images are very much people who are, because they're being told to express an expression, they're doing it very, their expressions are very stark, and so in the result the expression is very extreme. And then when you try to use that on someone who's just like, if you're watching a YouTube video, you're not like making faces like, oh no, I'm so happy, or oh, I'm so scared. You're just reacting normally. And because I guess machines are trained with fake-ish impressions, and don't have enough, like there is no way to give them objective data, because someone at some point will have to sit down and say, okay, this person is looking happy. There's no objective, this feeling is happy. And then you get a lot of subjective bias into the data, and you end up with something that is that mostly works. It's actually very annoying because a lot of this, it's called the FACTS, the Facial Action Coding System. A lot of that is like self-confirmation, where they're like, oh, we've trained this machine on this data set, and now we're testing it to see how well it recognizes emotions, and we're testing it on exactly the same data set, and oh, it's recognizing the data it was trained on really well. And it's like, okay, yes, also no shit, you trained it on that data, of course it will recognize that really well. Have you tried training it on something or using it on something that it hasn't been trained on? And then it turns out, oh yeah, it's actually much worse on that kind of data. And yeah, it's like, it was super interesting to work on that. But in the end, I kind of walked away with the feeling that it's not a very hard science. And it seems very much people who want to confirm what they're thinking by confirming what other people have been thinking, and yeah, it's just a giant circle of people confirming each other. Which is unfortunately what I guess many people are saying about social psychology in general, which is a shame because social psychology can be very interesting. But especially when it comes to the pressure of, oh, I have to publish significantly interesting data and significant findings, then you get to people who don't really want to figure out if something is working or not, or figure out what the effect of something is, but they need it to be a significant effect. They can't look at something and be like, oh yeah, interesting, we thought it works like this, but it actually doesn't. Who knew? They instead needed to be like, oh, it has to be a new finding that I can publish in a big paper. Because if I don't, I lose my funding as a professor or as a scientist. And so the people are very, or most of the researchers on it are very keen on just proving that what they think works actually works. And by doing that, obviously they are kind of manipulating the data, or they're saying, oh, it didn't work in this case. Well, but that's probably an outlier. Let's do it again. And yeah, in social science, obviously you have to do a lot of controlling. I think one of the things that I tried to investigate with my experiments was then, because I didn't run them alone, I had a bachelor student to help me and to kind of run some of the experiments with me. And I figured out when analyzing my data that the people, like the facial reactions of people were very different when she ran the experiment as opposed to when I ran the experiment. And that wasn't something I was told to control. That was something I was like, I feel like I should definitely add that in and control for that. And my professor wasn't very impressed with that, because I think she wanted something that had like a significant scientific impact that we can publish, and I didn't deliver that. Instead was like, well, there is something, but there are a lot of elements that we can't really explain, and I don't know if we can already draw a conclusion from that. And in the end, yeah, I don't think she was all too happy with that. She wanted something very different. And I think even when talking to her about this facial action coding system, I was like, well, that's a little bit of confirmation bias. But at the same time, she had spent like, I think the software that she bought was like in the area of 10,000 euros. Like just the cost for the machine and the software, because scientific software is ludicrously expensive. And I don't think she was happy with the idea that she spent 10,000 euros on something that I'm not very convinced is actually working all that well. So yeah, I think in social psychology, unfortunately, there's a lot of trying to confirm things instead of trying to figure out if things are if effects actually exist. And I think that's the less interesting part, or the less nice part. I was talking to a professor, like a friend of mine who was an older friend of mine. I think he died recently, but he used to be professor for social psychology, and he was researching like in the 70s or something like that. And the problem is with social psychology is that the funding usually comes from big companies that want you to investigate something, but then when you find something out that they didn't want you to find out, or that they're a result that they aren't happy with, they're like, actually, let's not publish that data, won't you? And if you do publish that data, we won't fund you anymore in the future. And so a lot of that stuff then goes unpublished, or gets only published years or decades later. And he was researching, he was doing a bit of research in food, and specifically beer. And he was approached by a company that was like, oh, we want you to figure out why people like basically taste test beer. Something fairly simple, like do a big study and figure out what people really like in beer. And they did a big study with a lot of taste tests, and in the end result was, it doesn't really matter how the beer is brewed. In general, people really like it if it's sweeter. And the company that approached them was like, actually, we were hoping for a result that's kind of not just the obvious result, but we were hoping for something that maybe confirms that our beer is the best tasting one because we're putting in the most effort or something like that. And because he couldn't deliver that, they were like, okay, let's not publish that data just yet, shall we? Let's actually ignore that, because it makes us look not that good. And so he didn't publish that, and I think it never got published, but the effect that people like something that is sweet is well known. And yeah, unfortunately, a lot of social psychology acts in that way, and that is a bit unfortunate. It also means that people are very unhappy with ridiculing social psychology a little bit for that, and I think that's a bit of a shame, because it is quite interesting. It's just not just a lot of confirming already confirmed suspicions instead of finding really cool, interesting stuff. And even the cool, interesting stuff that's sometimes found, a lot of social psychology has the issue that the experiments later on turn out not to be, like, you can't repeat them with the same result. You get a different result afterwards. And then you either have to think about, did the previous person lie that did this experiment, or did they can I just not replicate the same? Like, are the people I'm testing with different? Is the culture that I'm testing in different? Are the people maybe used to different tastes? Do they have a different socioeconomic background or social background and stuff like that? And yeah, I could talk about that quite a lot, and I don't think it's filling for an entire evening. But social psychology is in a really unfortunate position there. I think recently there was a study that almost 70 or 80%, I'm not sure what the exact number was, but a large amount of studies in social psychology can't be replicated, with the reason being that either when they are replicated the result isn't what the original study said, or that they are like that the very same lab requirements, I guess, I don't know, the same surrounding circumstance can't be replicated. And there's a lot of cheating or lying in social psychology, and every once in a while they have a big scandal where it turns out, oh, big professor lied on all of their papers and falsified all of their data. And obviously that isn't very helpful for psychology in general and how people view it. So yeah, that's about my masters. And yeah, the data I work with right now is a lot, or at least a little bit more concrete. I know I did a lot of shading while not really thinking about it. Don't know if I love what it looks like, but I think it's probably good enough. I don't want to remove things just because I think they look a little bit silly. I think the issue I have with this drop shadow shading is that after a while it looks like everything is very, I guess, plasticky, because it's very hard to get texture with this kind of shading, which I think it works very well for anime and manga kind of shading, because you're doing a lot of the texture with brush strokes. So if you want to have hair, you're usually giving it a lot of individual lines in there, so that your end result looks like textured hair, even if it only has one layer of shadows. But for what I'm doing here, that might not be the perfect approach. I'll see what it looks like at the end, and I mean, if I'm really not happy about it, I can always change it, or I can try to improve it with the next project, which I think is the more likely approach that I will take. At least I am very happy with my line work, and I'm very eager to then try to see if I can like do exciting stuff with line work in the future. Like, instead of doing line work and then coloring under this, which is what I'm doing right now, I want to try to basically use the line work as an as a guideline, but then color over it so that in the end result you can't see any line work. I think that's always really impressive when people can do that, and I want to learn that. I want to try to do that as well. All right. I'm going a bit faster with this shading here, because I think these side areas I won't be able to fully like calculate out which shadow I need where anyway, and so I might as well color it the way it roughly should look, and then in the end it will be good enough. see. But yeah, I think it looks already quite nice. The next big thing is going to be these big sashes, which I guess they will, the shading here will be also fairly simplistic because I basically need one big line for each of them. So let's see, for the browner color, I'm gonna go fairly dark. I'm gonna do that on a different layer though. I'm gonna be running into issues with all of the different other lines I have here. So like this, and I guess roughly like this. I tried some more intricate shading last time, or not intricate shading, but more in-depth shading with trying to add a little bit of texture while doing so. And I think while it generally kind of worked out, I'm also not good enough at it to make it fully work. And I think at that point, I should, at least for now, try to not do it at all. And then I can focus on that maybe during a project where I then only focus on like fabric or something like that. Basically do training montages on different colors, different shades, then try to figure out how they look when I just focus on them. Oh no, this is going to be an issue. I did this on very many layers. Like this kind of jutting out sash down here, I accidentally placed on 2 different layers, which I think is not going to be an issue with the way I'm shading this. Oh no, I did a little bit of green up there. A lot of my, I guess, workaround or working right now is going through different layers and figuring out what I did in those layers to then do something like this, where I finally figure out, was it this layer? I have the green? Nope. Is it this layer where I have the green? I stopped, unfortunately. Oh god. Which layer is it? Not this. Not this. This. Layer 37. Unfortunately, we stopped naming them. So now I just have to figure out where they are. And they look very much like tiny rectangles. If they're really big, or if the color I used in there is really big, then I can still identify them. But for some of them, it's very, very difficult. Like for the brown sash here, because it's such a big area, I can still see that. And obviously the red of the face is very easy to recognize, but everything else is a little bit too hidden. Yeah, I think this is fine for now. I think I ended up doing a lot of compromises, which is probably reasonable considering I haven't drawn in so long that I probably need to not start from scratch, but start very small. Obviously that also means that there are areas here where I'm like, oh, I wish I would take like 20 hours to then really go in depth with this detail. And I think I definitely shouldn't do that. But yeah, I did watch and really... Oh no. Oh, this layer is too far up. I did watch a really nice video about shading and coloring without using without using lines as boundaries like I'm doing it here. And I'm now really eager to try that out and to do it on my own. And I think with the... Like, let me... With this one here, I very much did that, and I very much managed to make something. I guess now there's some areas where he, like, the hair looks really nice, but I guess in the ear area and the side of the face I'm still having these hard lines. Same here. Obviously same with this one, where I then really went into shading it a lot, and I can kind of see the downsides of trying to do very intricate shading for something where it's not meant to work like that. I think here is also, this one has the plastic hair problem, where the hair needs a lot more fine lines to be defined as hair, but instead it looks a little bit like a plastic helmet. But also, if I critique it for too long, then I'm going to be unhappy with it, so I'm just going to stop that. I think in general I was quite happy with that result, at least when I finished it at the time. The long bygone time of about... I know I probably could figure out roughly when exactly that was. That was 2014 or 15. I think it was 2015. That was close to the last thing I drew. And then right before that I did a lot of pixel art stuff, which I'm also quite happy about. Like, I think with pixel art you can do so many cool things, and there are people who do pixel art landscapes that I'm amazed by because it looks so intricate and so much work. I try to do very plain stuff. I'm still happy with that though. I think it looked like I had done it a lot more than I had at the time. Okay, I just need to finish probably this area here. I think I wrote in the description that I will try to finish it this time. I'm not quite sure if I can finish it this time. I mean, I've been on it for... I don't know where the timer is. I cannot see the timer. I've been on it for a while, let's say it like that. And I think my progress is a lot less than I thought it would be. Let's see, roughly like this. Okay, what does it look like? I remove all the... Alright, it looks alright-ish. There are some areas here that I will have to go back to. I think I completely ignored in the bottom half the possible shadow of those two lines. Those two sashes lines. Oh no. Yeah. Here. Obviously these... Oh, I kind of drew over the last one. And they do need to add at least a bit of a shadow that I have to account for. I'm gonna probably, after I'm done with it, leave it at least for a little bit before I do any changes. just so that I can see if there are things that I'm genuinely unhappy with, or if those are things that I'm kind of unhappy with in the moment and that turn out to be completely fine. Oh, same for this one. Just a quick line. Maybe a lot more thin. Ooh, I can try to find some of my old pixel art. I think I'll have to, oh god. I have like 7 different... Oh, I have way too many different windows open. Let me go to my old, or now recovered, now found again DeviantArt profile. I don't know how to use this. How do I see my... How do I see my things? Gallery. See all. There we go. Something's gone wrong. That's not a good sign. Ah, there it is. Ooh, yeah, okay. This is one example. I'm gonna quickly remove all of the background. This is one that I did ages ago, or at least I guess in, what did I say, 2015? And then this one, which was some other one. Like in this, shadowing or shading is really easy because you just have to, you don't have to go into too much detail. And maybe I'll try something like that again. I think here with the shading of the skirt, you can do so much with so little in that. But yeah, in reality, it's so much harder for something big like this. I think I might try something like only a face because I can't draw any other body parts, and then I'm gonna try to do a lot of shading or very little shading on there. I'm gonna have to see about that. Okay, for now I wanted to finish all of this today, so let's continue with that. I'm kind of intentionally leaving out the yellow forehead crystal. Because I don't really know what to do about it. I think I have to highlight it instead of just adding like a shade low light, and that I am terrified about. I'm gonna not do it right now. Okay, I want to do I think I named it knife. The blue part of the hair. Oh yeah, apparently I named it knife, but then didn't color all of it. So there are some areas here that are blue and not actually show up as selected right now. And I also see a few areas where I maybe went a little bit too far over the line. Let's see, can I... Oh, no. Can I just take the color? Then I want to select a slightly darker color. Alright. Oh. Move my drawing tablet into range again. I think in this case this would be something where like texturing would be really important, because I think for the things that I named knife, I was imagining some kind of metal texture. But obviously, if I'm just coloring and shading everything the same, I'm not going to be able to do a metal texture or to make it stick out as something else. But I think I'm just going to leave it as is. Maybe I can come and revisit that later on, or maybe I decide that that this is not for this project. Although I think if I want to have it be metal, I have to be really sharp with the edges. Something like well, good enough. Somewhat sharp, moderately sharp, a little bit dull. If it was a kitchen knife, I'd try to use a whetstone on it. But good enough. I actually recently got my first whetstone, as if that is a common goal. Got a whetstone for my kitchen knife. Because I have a really nice one, a really like a proper sharp chef's knife, and it's so satisfying to sharpen a knife and then have it glide through things again, at least for a little bit, before it then becomes a little bit too dull again. Although it's then at the same time terrifying to have a knife that is expensive, or at least that I like a lot, and then have to grind or like drag it over a grindstone and really hope that I'm not permanently damaging it. So yeah, I waited quite a while before I did anything there, but now that I did, I'm very impressed with the results. I guess that's a part of getting old, when you're really impressed with grindstones, the sharpness of your kitchen knives. I guess I really like cooking, and I cook almost daily. So for me, it is something that is, I want to say life-changing, but I think that is, I'm too much of a boomer at that point. I can't say life-changing for kitchen knives. I'll say it's nice. I'm very much not a chef. I'm a hobby cook. There was a time when I was just done with school where I would really try to make every possible combination of a curry that I could find, and I was really like dedicated to getting my own oh, I don't have a layer selected. Is it this? It is this. I was really keen on like figuring out how to do the to mix the spices correctly and not use a pre-mixed thing. And then I went to Japan a little bit and ate a lot of Japanese curry, and it's so good. So I now just have a big block of curry, like not curry powder, curry paste, I guess. These Japanese golden curry thingies. I really like it. Don't make it too often, because I'm unfortunately the only one in this household who really likes it. But it's kind of my comfort food at this point. Yeah, like eating homemade food is probably, like, for me it's a really nice way to just relax after work and to kind of wind down. I also really like to experiment with stuff, and usually it doesn't work super well. So then I don't know, I wanted to make blueberry cheesecake, cheesecake at some point, and I didn't have any blueberries, so I used like a lot of different, and I wanted to make it vegan for a different reason, and take it to somebody's birthday. So I made a vegan blueberry cheesecake with no actual blueberries and a lot of artificial flavoring, and it just turned out horrendously bad. But then I was like, okay, you can use just flavoring for a cheesecake. So I tried to make a bunch of different ones, and obviously like lemon is really easy to do and tastes incredible. And then something like, I think I did a Coca-Cola cheesecake, which was, it tasted nice, but if you think about Coca-Cola color and that in a cheesecake, it just looked like a bit of a dookie, which was unfortunate. But yeah, I like to experiment a lot. We had salmon sashimi today. So I had to de-skin a salmon, and because I wanted to use the skin, I tried to roast the skin, like oven roasted, and have like salmon skin crackers. And unfortunately, like last time, I did it for the first time, and I didn't really do the descaling correctly, so I ended up with a small part of salmon skin that was usable, and the rest was kind of destroyed while trying to descale it. This time I managed to descale everything properly, but I still ended up accidentally burning the salmon skin. But I really like experimenting with different food stuff, so next time I'll know that I need to turn the oven to a much lower temperature, and I know how to properly descale it. Next time it will end up really nice. I think the Coca-Cola cheesecake actually was like, I tried to do it with 2 inside layers. So outer ring lemon and then inner ring Coca-Cola, because I thought those flavors work nicely together. And the lemon part was really nice, and because the inside part was cola, and I didn't really know how to do the inside part inside a cake, and I didn't really have the right tools. It then ended up looking like I did like a at best it looked like there was a molehill inside of that cheesecake, at best. And at worst it looked like someone took a dump inside of a cheesecake. Still tasted fine. But you don't only eat you don't only eat with your mouth, unfortunately, and eating with your eyes, that looked awful. But I learned for the next time, and I think stop making those. The lemon one I can still do, and it works out well. Unfortunately, since I can't have any dairy, I'm always really restricted in what food I can make. And so I always have to be, with baking especially, a bit creative. Alright, have a good night or evening. Well, it was nice of you to stop by. Oh, I definitely will. I really like experimenting with different food stuff. I mean, I also like experimenting with drawing. I'm probably gonna be done with this one after today, but I might start a different project. Or I do a bit of games in between that before I decide what to do next. Yeah, thank you for stopping by. Have a nice evening. Night, I guess. Right, I kind of stopped paying attention to how exactly I'm coloring these. I also stopped using the previous layer as a guideline for the drawing and erasing, because I think it is starting to become a little bit too complex, and I'd rather have a new layer for each one and then erase it like I'm doing right now. That way I can also be a little bit more accurate. Let me... Ooh! I think this one is the one sash that I'm really happy with the way it kind of folds and looks like. It looks very plastic, but not as in plastic the material, but plastic as in three-dimensional. So that looks kind of nice. Oh no. But that also makes every shading decision even more important. I thought about making a like sped up version of this once I finish this, and basically since I lost a lot of the progress in Photoshop itself, it will have to be basically stream capture setup version. I'm gonna have to see if that actually looks decent at all, or if I'm gonna just abandon that idea. Oh no, this looks so strange. I thought it might be really nice, but then I don't know if I'm maybe changing between layers too often. Or changing between, I guess, scenes where each scene is one static view of the project. And if I do, it's gonna be very annoying to watch if I jump around all that like too much. I also thought that basically since I am since I'm taking my sweet time with this, it's also gonna be a little bit long. Like I think it's been 5 or 6 or 7 streams, and each stream is maybe an hour, maybe 1.5 hours long. And so if I just extend that to like to a sped up video, like even if I want to have it down by, I don't know, I roughly have to maybe 100 times it to have it at a duration that's not completely boring to watch. Like even if I want to have it down to a couple of minutes, it's gonna be a very sped up. And if I switch scenes too often, oh, I don't want to change hue saturation. Oh no, I'm transforming this. I just wanted to do Control Z. Yeah, if I'm changing scenes too much, then that's gonna be hard to watch. So I'm gonna attempt it. I'm just gonna plonk in all of my YouTube videos and see what it looks like if I speed it up. But I'm a bit not too much looking forward to it. It might look too odd, too weird. Where are the bubbles? Aren't the bubbles in front of this? Oh yeah, interesting. Oh, interesting. In this area, I never did the background of this sash inside of the bubbles. So now it looks like the bubbles are kind of half shaded. Let's see if I can still like replace that. Kind of like this, I guess. No, I'm gonna have to do that on the specific layer. Oh, did I? Yeah, I got rid of the bubble layer again. Which layer is this? Was it this? No. Those were most of the other ones. It's this one. Okay, that's easy to replace then. I'm just gonna go bloops. And the background is done for that one. Alright, back to shading. There isn't... Oh, never mind, there's a lot left. I think this looks... Yeah, again, I'm very happy with the... Oh, with the way I ended up making this look three-dimensional, which makes it so much easier to shade, because I now can more accurately be like, oh, I want to have this type of flow. So this is kind of what I aspire to do with all of the other ones in future projects. Just have them look very nice and orderly. Oh. There's a type of food anime that I'm currently watching with my partner, which is about like it's very extreme. It's very much like I forgot what it's called. Something like Food Fight or something in that direction. And it's very much about school-aged kids or high school-aged kids doing cooking battles against each other. Maybe it's just called Food Fight. And it's very ridiculous and in that very entertaining. But there's this one character who always does really, really yucky dishes. Like was generally a good cook, and then does kind of awful experiments and inflicts those on people. And sometimes when I'm cooking, I feel a little bit like that, where I'm like, okay, I don't want a recipe, I just want to see what happens. Like, what happens if I combine these things, or what happens if I put this ingredient into this dish. Like when seasoning, I really like going by smell and be like, all right, let's smell basically every herb I have available and see if it smells like it should go into the dish. And sometimes it's a hit, and sometimes it's not. But I think at least if I want to become a better cook, I need to do a lot of experimentation to then figure out what works and what doesn't. And I'm kind of hoping to approach drawing the same and kind of be like, okay, I'm just gonna draw and see if what I'm drawing is working out fine, or if I should never do this again. And I think with the type of, I don't want to call it dirty line work, because obviously I didn't do any dirty work here. But with this kind of not completely clean line work, that's very much something that I wasn't super familiar with before. And I think that worked out fairly well. Like, line work wise, I'm really happy with this. So I'm looking forward to then applying that same thing on the next project and then see what I can do, maybe with good line work and then really interesting shading. Or I just do the shading in the line work and not have to worry about it later like I'm doing right now. Yeah, I guess I'm getting close to finishing. Not super close. I'm maybe halfway done. And in part, I'm like, okay, this looks kind of finished, but at the same time, it looks so far away from what I thought it would look like that I'm like, oh, surely I can't be done right now. Or surely I'm not done yet. Surely there's still so much more to do. So I have to see once I'm done. I have to just leave it for a bit and then come back and see if I want to, if there are areas here that I want to continue, or if it's satisfactory and I guess leave it as its own thing, as a product of its time, I wanted to say, but that's, I mean, I guess it's a product of its time in that, in some way. The product of my first return to drawing, and next time I'm drawing, I'm gonna have a lot of elements to take away from this one and to learn and to hopefully improve on. And that will be interesting in itself. I think what I've decided though is that this kind of shadowing I'm not a huge fan of. I'm gonna finish it now, but I think at least with this type of drawing, it doesn't work super well together, which is a shame. But yeah, maybe I'm also not quite sure on how to use it, and that isn't helping. But I think there are a lot of elements here that could look a lot nicer if done differently. Which I guess is an extremely broad statement. And maybe that changes once I step away from it and then look at it with a little bit of not only physical but also time distance. But currently I would say line work wise and that's mainly it. Line work wise, really happy with it. Everything else, at least for now, I think has a lot of room for improvement. Obviously face, really good. And I think the shading is at least starting to work like in this area. At least if viewed from afar. So maybe it will work in the rest of the I want to say face, rest of the body as well. Oh. I have to be very careful with this. Am I... Okay, this is not a layer I'm currently live on. I should probably move this into a new layer. But I've started it here, I'm gonna end it here. Nah, I'm just gonna move it into a new layer. I should have a little bit more discipline in naming the different layers. And I very much don't right now. Oh no, very much don't right now. Currently, almost everything I've drawn is called layer consecutive number. And it's not visible which layer it actually is. So if I ever need to find something again, I'm just gonna have to guess where I drew that. I'm basically gonna have to go through all of the layers. Yeah, go through all of the layers, remove them, add them back in, be like, okay, evidently this wasn't the one that I was looking for. Or I guess make them visible and invisible to then figure out where the heck the layer is that I was looking for. Oh no. Let me move down a little bit, like this. Okay. I think that's that color mostly dealt with. There is the... I guess let me switch back to the pen. Sometimes it really likes to make aggressive ding noises, or Windows likes to make aggressive ding noises at me. And I think usually that's when I have something selected that isn't a brush, and I'm trying to do something that should require a brush. Oh, I like the previous. It's unfortunate that the color selection wheel isn't visible, because in there, obviously, I'm trying to select colors that slightly work. Like I'm trying to not just do a black layer on top, because while that works really well for something like the red down there, I think if you use it everywhere, it kind of makes everything look grayish. And so I'm trying to use just darker versions of the same color, which is probably in the end result the same as using a black layer. So I shouldn't look down on that. I don't know where that line is coming from or where it's going. There's a I think in the probably early to mid 2000s there were a lot of TV shows that used kind of very color splash screens, or color splash, I think art and craft shows, basically children's art and craft shows used a lot of color splash, and I think those color splashes were usually shaded similar to this, where you had a splotch kind of like this. That's kind of just a very three-dimensional round looking color splash. So whenever I look at this, I think, oh yeah, early 2000s or mid to 2000s arts and craft show, which is not necessarily the feeling I want to evoke with this. But it's fine. At least I think in the end it will look fine, or fine enough. I'm gonna be somewhat happy with it. And I definitely already know some areas I can improve on for next time, or the last time I will ever draw. I really want to do a black and white thing now. Just don't have to bother about different colors. Just go in, or not even black and white, I guess grayscale. I think especially when coloring, it kind of shows how inexperienced I am with that. And so if I want to seem very experienced, I just move away from that. No, kind of like this. I have a lot of things to erase. Oh, a lot of things to erase. But I think in general, at least this part of the shading I'm done with here. Oh, that's a lot of things to erase. Okay. I think the face I'm still a little bit iffy about. It might be too extreme with the, I guess, darkness setting I chose there. I think the eye part at least will have to be a little bit brighter, and the cheek area will have to be expanded a little bit. I will do that eventually, at a not now time. And I think for the sashes I'm gonna go back to at least trying to limit my reaching the borders a little bit, so that I don't have to spend endless times erasing something that it wasn't meant to be there anyway. Since I started drawing again, I've also paid a lot of attention to basically just in general different people drawing, both on YouTube, but also just on, I don't know, card art for trading card games or something like that. I know Pokemon is really big, or really having a resurgence right now. But even for other card games, there are many that are currently thriving, and looking at and comparing artwork there is really fun. Like Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! And Magic all have very, very different design approaches that look kind of odd against each other. Like, I think in comparison, Pokemon, for example, is doing a lot of I don't want to say bold stuff. No, maybe I want to say bold stuff. Pokemon is doing a lot of bold stuff, by which I mean things like claymation Pokemon, or extremely different art styles for things, which is very cool. Other card games or other games are some of them, I think Magic the Gathering, for example, has some areas where it's really trying to move into like very wacky art directions, which usually works out all right. Sometimes they're moving a little bit too far away from, I guess, card game, in my opinion. But I think in general, I really appreciate it when they try to push what's considered normal a little bit. I think especially when you factor in game design, obviously you have to think about, like, even if I do the most wacky design, in the end, what's the most important part? Like, is the card still readable? If the card isn't readable, that's pretty damning. Which one are those purple tentacles? Are those these? Yes. Like, obviously, if you're going too wacky with the art style, your card isn't readable anymore, which is an issue, because like, it's not only an issue for playing with it. Obviously, you want everybody to be able to play with your cards. And if people are unable to read your card, that's a bit of an inclusion issue, because you're basically excluding people that are maybe not familiar with that specific writing style, or maybe can't read that language. Like, I think both Pokemon and other card games, Magic I know of, for other games I'm not that sure of. They obviously have cards with Japanese writing on them that are sometimes included in international products, and it's fun and all. Like it's neat, but if you're thinking of not the very enfranchised player, but maybe a little bit more a casual player, or someone who's like, oh, I wonder what this game is all about, and they open up a pack and there's something in Japanese, they might be like, okay, am I getting scammed here? Is this a fake pack? What's happening here? I have no idea what this card is saying. Even if I wanted to play with it right now, I don't know what it's saying. Do I have to, like, what can I even Google to figure out what this card is doing? And obviously those are then the other considerations of if we do cool cards or cool like insert of different language cards into other booster packs, like how do we make it in a way where we don't sacrifice actual playability to collectability? And I mean, while card games are extremely collectible right now, I don't know how playable all of them are. I don't know if Pokemon the trading card game like is having the same boost in players that Pokemon the collectible card game has. I know that it's not VCG, but VCG I think is, no, maybe it is, I don't know which one the digital version of Pokemon is, but one of them, I think one is TCG and one is VCG, which would mean that VCG is the games or the games on the Switch or other device, and TCG is then the trading card game. But I could be wrong, and it could be named something entirely different. I know that the VCG is having a bit of a boost in player base right now. But my, I guess, assumption as someone who doesn't play Pokemon would be that the trading card game currently is probably not doing all that fine in terms of people actually playing it. Because I assume that since people are collecting it so much, that kind of means that the average player is probably completely priced out from buying the cards that are good and then playing with them. Although it could be like exactly the other way around, because people are collecting so much, they are collecting all the special art cards and opening a lot of products, and that means that then the person who's just interested in getting a playable card and doesn't care about it being the super shiny golden version has a really nice time finding cheap cards because so much product is being opened. So yeah, it could be the other way around. I wonder how it works for games that are not meant to be played at all. Like there's the baseball trading cards and basketball, I think, trading cards and football trading cards. I assume soccer trading cards are a thing. Although I'm not sure how or where they are distributed. I don't know. This one should have a different shadow line, I guess. It should kind of be like this. So yeah, when I was in the US a few months ago, I got baseball, I mean, like trading cards or just collectible. I assume they're not really meant to be traded. So I got some baseball trading cards just to open up and look at them. I don't know. I know one player. I know Shohei Ohtani. That's it. My knowledge about football. No, that's baseball. My knowledge about baseball is about the same as it is for hockey, where I know Wayne Gretzky, and that's about it. I guess for European football or soccer, I know, I guess, other players are available. I know, actually, I probably know a few more. I know Messi. I know extremely current players such as Pele. I know a lot of the old German players, like the not currently playing. I know Müller. Müller is a currently playing German player. But yeah, my knowledge of different sports is extremely limited. Oh no. It's screaming at me again. I guess esports is where I then suddenly know a bunch of players. Like, oh, ask me about StarCraft 1 players or StarCraft 2 players or League of Legends players. That's where I probably would know more than the average person. I know Gumayushi or Soulkey. I think it's Soulkey. I think even though I have never played StarCraft 1, watching StarCraft 1 esports was kind of one of the very first things I did when I started watching things in English. And so it still feels very much at home for me. I think mainly StarCraft 2 there. But I appreciate StarCraft 1 for being, I don't want to say the better game, but the more competitive game, like the more vanilla game, I guess. Kind of like chess and other games. Other games might be really fun and complex and really cool and flashy, but chess has the upside of being chess. Everybody knows roughly how to play chess. Like, very few people know how to play chess well, but I could probably... most people probably would know how to make a few moves. Like, maybe not everybody knows exactly how the knight moves. Maybe not everybody knows exactly knows what en passant is, similar to the offside rule in football or soccer, that I'm also kind of unfamiliar with. But I think when you go with sports that most people know the rules for, chess probably ranks really high up there. Obviously, I guess international sports such as soccer are like, I would assume that billions of people know the rules of soccer. I would assume that probably more than a billion people know the rules of chess. Like, not the in-depth rules again, but could move a few pieces. Know that the king has to be captured at the end, or has to be checkmated. I don't know if that's true for many other games. Like football, American football, I'm not sure. Like, I don't know the rules of it. I know that people run into each other, but and that you kind of have to run okay, you have to run a long time with the ball, and then you go to the touchdown zone and if you have the ball at that point, you are good. But I don't know if that would count as knowing the rules for American football. Then there's rugby, and I honestly don't know the difference between football and rugby. Then I guess tennis is pretty much self-explainable. You hit a ball with a racket. But then points counting or scoring in tennis, that's again already I'm out with that one. And I think outside of that there aren't that many universal sports. Or universal, I guess, not necessarily only sports, but games. I think chess is kind of the only really big international one. Because it was big in the Soviet Union, and so that part of the world, it is at least known, I guess, in... Actually, I'm not sure how much East Asian countries know about chess, or if it's more, I guess, shogi there, or mahjong, or one of those games that is a lot more popular. Go. Oh, Go is so cool. Again, for Go, I know, I guess, the basic rules, but I assume that's also something that's probably a little bit more obscure than a lot of other games. Like between Go and football or soccer, I would probably hazard a guess that more people know the basic rules of soccer. I mean, obviously, because it's the one that I named, for most people know this. Let me see how this looks like now that I've kind of absent-mindedly played with it. It was kind of nice. I think the many different points I have in there make it quite nice to shade it, the many different lines. So maybe that's, going forward, that's the way I should approach these kind of more line drawings, where I then also make sure to have a lot of lines to help me. Okay, I know, line drawing with a lot of lines. I think I unscrewed my drawing tablet pen recently, and saw that there are a lot of different, I guess, replacement pen caps in there. And I think drawing like this, it's weird because it's obviously it's a plastic pen, but maybe is it visible like this? Not really. Like the top, the part that I used to, I guess, press on the drawing tablet with, is definitely already slanted in one direction, where I assume most of, like, whenever I do multiple approaches on something, or I guess press it very hard when I'm shading something, or I do a lot of back and forth scribbling, I assume I just create a lot of microplastic. But that's good for my health. Plastic can only be good, because once I ingest a lot of plastic, I'll be invincible. Because I have breathed in so much plastic that I'm mostly uncompostable. Just like my grandparents and parents that are mostly, I think my parents would be lead and my grandparents asbestos. Maybe I'm getting the generations mixed up there. Maybe my grandparents are a little bit... Oh no, what did happen here? Oh, I see. I'm on the same layer, so I'm starting to erase things that I've previously drawn. Oh no, and I'm still on the same layer, so now I'm erasing the other things that I've previously drawn. See where I'm starting to play myself. Good enough like this. Maybe I need to be on a new layer again. I'm having, at this point, so many shading layers. It's a bit ridiculous. Like, shading-wise, I will absolutely never be able to tell what layer what is on. But yeah, generation-wise, I think LED was... I think LED was the previous generation. Maybe the previous generation also has the uranium upside, or at least they're radioactive. And then, yeah, I think asbestos was the generation before that, but it's possible that there's a generation in between that I'm missing. Or asbestos was the generation after lead, and then my parents are mercury or something. Although we kind of get the double on that one, where we get mercury or lead and other things. Like if you eat a lot of fish, that's some mercury for you. I think I'm mostly, like, what am I missing? If I go over these, there is the gold parts that basically need both high and low lights. Same with the halo. Then this area here. Let me go back to my brush. Why does it kind of weaves a little bit into the hair? Oh yeah, and over here. That purple kind of layer is here quite a bit. Oh, and this green layer that I completely missed. I think I'm gonna do this green layer right now, because otherwise I am gonna forget about it. And after that I can do the purple layer, and after that I can do the next layer, and so on. Just have a steady stream of different layers to shade. I guess this was an example for where the multiple lines are not that helpful with shading, because there are a bit too many. You kind of have to very roughly shade it. Kind of like this. And then this lower one. Oh, am I not allowed to scroll down? Apparently not. Okay, so this lower one. Also just one color. I assume this is so far behind other things that I think it would be reasonable for it to be all shaded. Okay, next purple. I don't know if I want to shade the dark green, or if the dark green is just gonna stay dark green. Oh god. I think I'm always trying to use the eraser to then select a different color, which obviously Photoshop is enraged and angry about. So let me just use the current one. It's gonna be fine. I was a bit worried when I made, I think a few streams ago, my point about, oh yeah, I can understand why people use view botting, view boosting, bot viewers. I think it's view botting. But yeah, makes a lot of sense. I was worried when I said that, because I was like, okay, maybe I shouldn't mentioned this while also streaming on Twitch. But I watched, I think it was the day after that, I think a Ludwig video came out. Where he was like, okay, I'm just gonna stream on my own and see if I get, like, how long it takes me to get a chatter. And I think it took like 6-7 hours. maybe a little bit less. He then did a fake giveaway, and then someone turned in for the fake giveaway and then recognized that he was Ludwig and then chatted, which obviously is a bit of an advantage, because once you know that it's that streamer that you already know, that's your, for the streamer, I guess it's the ticket to then have that person chat with you even if they are not super into what you're currently doing. But yeah, in that stream he also mentioned like, oh, maybe it's understandable that people, or maybe view botting, it does get you to the top, or at least it does get you out of the 0 to 2 area, a viewer area. And I think it probably does, and it's probably really hard to crack down on it, but at the same time, like, what the fuck am I doing this for? I'm not doing it to bot my way to many viewers. I'm doing it so that I have an excuse to do some, both learn English or improve my accent, I guess. Improve towards eventually, hopefully, less of an accent. And just force myself to draw without like, otherwise I probably wouldn't have enough of a reason to actually draw. I would just spend my time playing something idly or procrastinate, and this way I can kind of be like, oh no, but I have to draw for the stream. The people will be disappointed, my lord. Okay. That's this part. There are now a few things that are just randomly still unshaded, like this one. That I just have to catch up on. And then I think I'm mostly done with at least the shading part. Yeah, while it is really nice when people chat with me, it's also, I don't know, not a prerequisite. I think, especially when playing games, I really have fun talking about games and talking while I'm playing something. And I realized that, like, once you get older, it is kind of hard to find people that not only regularly want to play, but then are also really into the game itself, and like, oh, let's chat about the mechanics of it the entire time, or just chat in general. I'm lucky to have a few of those friends that are happy to play with me and chat about the game, but obviously not everybody is around all the time. So it's nice to have an outlet where I can chat about the game, even though it might be chatting to nobody in particular. It's still nice to have that. Outside of this one, I think mostly the coloring is done, right? Am I missing something obvious? I'm ignoring the green part. I think that's it. I'm gonna do a new layer just in case. I'm at end layer 49. And once that's done, I'll have to then approach the background, and I think that's gonna be an entirely different beast. Let's see, roughly like maybe this. Yeah, I think roughly like this. The background I'm a bit wary about just because it is definitely not my type of style to draw big strokes, few strokes. I prefer to do very intricate kind of many small lines instead of few big line do trick. But I'll have to try because I think otherwise, like, I can't do anything super intricate on the background, otherwise it will take literally forever. And if I don't, I have to have an alternative, and the alternative will have to be to just do it with a style that I'm maybe not super familiar with and not super confident in. It's a very weird feeling, kind of. Obviously, I'm not actively racking my brain as to what to talk about. I'm kind of just saying whatever comes to mind. But every once in a while, I get a very intense flashback of different times in my life that I maybe don't revisit super often, that I could talk about, that are very, I guess, that are interesting. Like, for some reason, when drawing those final lines here, I was thinking about China in 2008, when I was in China, which was, I mean, I was 13, 14 at the time, so definitely not at an age where I should have been alone in China. But there were some very surreal feelings there, because it was my first time away from home in a major way, I guess, for a longer time, longer than just a few days, and it was in an extremely foreign country to me. And then even within that, at some point, we went from the school that we were staying at in Shanghai to Beijing. And I mean, Beijing is, once you're alone at night in a city that you don't even remotely live in, like not even the city that you are being exchanged to, but an entirely different city from that, it starts to be, I don't know, it's a kind of indescribable feeling to be that alone, that far away from home, and then it being night. I think that was something that stayed with me for a long time. Kind of, yeah, 2 a.m. in a hotel, completely on my own. I guess we weren't completely on our own. We were like a group of 5 to 10 school children around the age of 14. And I guess there are these kind of liminal, not spaces, but liminal times where that kind of feel like they are not part of reality. Right, now I have to concentrate a little bit here. No more talking about liminal times. Oh, even though maybe liminal times is kind of nice. Obviously that's something, or liminal spaces at least, is something that you have a lot of in computer games, because you have, especially in games, a lot of areas where not, like in open world games, where not a lot happens when you're not actively interacting with them. Like if you imagine an older GTA game, or basically an older anything game, you have these spaces that are kind of there, and obviously there are people there that do something when you interact with them, but when you're not, nothing happens there. And when you, instead of ignoring them, as you probably should do because you're not interacting with them, then what are you doing? If you then just look at them and try to, I guess, investigate them for the places they are supposed to be, that then becomes really weird. Because it's like, oh no, this is not a place you're supposed to interact with right now. This is not a place that was meant to be doing anything right now. And by you investigating it, it suddenly becomes a very weird, surreal place. And that's how I felt in China. Good, now back to highlighting this. I'm gonna see how it works if I highlight in basically bright white. Let's see, basically like this. No, this doesn't work. I kind of have to figure out what gemstones actually look like. Like if I assume, if I imagine, oh no, imagine the sun. Basically, I would want something like this, and maybe something like here, but maybe not. And I think it's also probably best if I go back into the kind of pencil or brush mode with that, where I can then be like this kind of fading. That should probably be more. Maybe this works. I'm gonna have to like try it a little bit on other areas here. Maybe like this, maybe here. No, not like that. Sometimes it works when I just try to hit something and then just hit the perfect shape by accident. I don't know if that works right now, or if I am just trying for naught. It's probably fine-ish. Maybe I'm trying to look at like maybe no. I think this looks fine enough. Do I want to revisit the face? I think not right now. I think I'm gonna give it a little bit of a rest and see how I feel about it later on. What I do want to do is do color. And basically fairly harsh color. I was thinking about to move those away. Is it this? Yeah, something like this, where I use a brush and do then fairly, oh god, I need to use the far larger brush. I think it's like a 500 pixel brush that I want to use. Let's see if I just use that. Oh, okay. If I just use that currently, it doesn't do anything because I'm the exact same color as the background. This works fairly well. I will have to position my drawing tablet correctly as usual. Come on, we go to the side there. But I think just having the kind of brush feeling, I can then kind of do my shading here. Like if I want to have I guess it should be brighter in the top left. I want things to kind of work in that way. And now I go slightly brighter. And I think this is probably how I should have done shading in general. I now just go brighter and brighter as I move further away to the top. Just a little bit brighter. And I don't need to go white. I guess I want more from the left to the right than from... Yeah, I think this looks fine. I'm gonna hide this for now. And I'm gonna do a different approach because my light is very much coming directly from the side. So if I wanted to make sure that like my shading reflects that, then I should do basically a lot of lines here, a lot of lighter area to the left, and then a lot less lighter area to the right. Kind of like this. Maybe a little bit more. Now I want to go slightly brighter and slightly more centered or weight towards the left here. It almost has a little bit of the to say like school bus seat feeling. Or maybe the brush strokes are a little bit too heavy-handed. Okay, last one. I'm gonna do very bright from here. I think I'm generally somewhat fine with this. Now, before I decide that I want it entirely different, I need to do 3 different types. And I guess I do that as the very top layer. I'm gonna use not black, but let's say a very, very, very dark teal. And then I have to do starting soon. Oh. No. I think... Oh no. I think I'm a little bit too big with that one. Is there anything here? Oh, there's a half-covered eye there. Let me go slightly smaller. 250. Let's do... It looks really cool. I can't do an ing here. So yeah, looks neat, is completely unusable, unfortunately. Oh, I have an idea. But first I have to do a starting. Let's start here. S T A R E I N. Daten. Daten soon. I need to be even smaller than this. No. Maybe I just draw. Maybe I should just draw it on a blank canvas. Let's do a completely blank canvas. Actually, let me at least get the color correctly. Oh, this is hard to watch. This is too bright. Let's do S E A R T I N. Oh, I'm on the wrong layer. If I do this on the non-transparent layer, obviously can never move it. So S. I don't like that S now. S T A R. No, I don't like that R. T I N. I don't like that N as well. I'm starting to micromanage my letters. How can a G look cool? Like this. Starting. And then slightly offset below that. I want to have Alright, looks kind of cool. Now I need a slightly whiter layer. That's maybe 350. That I drop. Oh, below that I wanted to say. Or maybe, no, never mind. Okay, I'm gonna do instead a little bit of Photoshop magic. I want to modify, expand this by, let's say 50 pixels. And then give me this exact color. And do it like obviously lighter, but maybe less aggressively neon colored. And let's just add it in. I can feel the microplastics coming up from my drawing tablet as I grind the tip of my plastic pen against it. Oh no. Starting. Ooh. It doesn't need to be perfect, so I'm kind of just not just filling it, I'm just roughly coloring it. Starting soon. Then this can be slightly opaque. Top layer can also be slightly opaque, I guess. Or slightly transparent, not slightly opaque. Quite the opposite. Alright, now that we have both of these, let's see how we can implement them. Maybe they shouldn't be slightly opaque, at least the top one. Maybe the bottom one needs to be slightly less transparent. Starting soon. I guess it's barely readable. Maybe I need another filter. I want to modify this filter. I want it to expand by like 100 pixels. And then I want to smooth it. Now I'm not sure if I know how this actually works. So let's say I want to smooth it by 75. What does this do? Like if I now draw into it, okay, that seems very hard bordered. I thought it would make the border very soft. That's apparently not how that works. I don't know if I know how to do this. I think maybe it's if I add another layer here. I'm just starting layers. And then I do... Oh god. Now this is a lot more Photoshop and a lot less anything else. Let's do a blur here. I just want I want this as a rough blur, and then I want it slightly opaque. I just want to make sure that what I have here is readable, and it's readable well. I think it probably needs to be dark. Like, what happens if I make this fully black? Does it look better? I think this could be better. I might keep it for now. Once I figure out how to make this, like obviously, ideally it would be integrated into the drawing. But I can't do that right now. So yeah, I guess this is fine. I'm gonna make the same for ending and or stream ending and be right back. And I guess removing this for now. Welcome to what I consider, at least for now, to be the finished painting. I think the headdress and the facial area, I'm starting, like the more I look at it, the more happy I am with it. Like it looks nice. Obviously, then when I start concentrating on smaller aspects, I'm like, oh no, I could have made this better and could have made more of an effort here and there. But I think in general, I am fairly happy with this. There are elements that I'm excited to improve next time, and maybe I revisit the shading a little bit. But I think for now, I'm quite happy with this. I'm happy how this worked out. I'm happy how this turned out. And I'm gonna maybe play around with the background a little bit more, but I think for now I consider this done. I will be back soon, and I might do some more drawing, or maybe playing something in the next few days. But for now, I thank you for watching. Thank you for joining me on this first drawing journey, and yeah, Bye bye. Thank you for watching. Bye.